and welcome to the second lesson of my Weakaura School. The first lesson was about the basics of Weakauras, where you learned the layout of the add-on and how you navigated and did simple things. Today we're gonna create our first Weakaura together, and it's going to be a cooldown aura. We will do a simple version and a slightly more advanced version, but I'll do it in steps so that you can follow along. So start by opening up the add-on with the command /WA, like so. And our first step is to create a new group over here. You should always have a group for your Weakauras. They are so much easier to manage if they're in a group. Right, so I thought we were going to begin with doing a cooldown aura for Chi Burst, so let's call this Chi Burst group. And then we're gonna go back to new, and we're gonna use an icon aura for this. Let's name it just Chi Burst, like so. And if you click on this little arrow here, and then on the group, you just pop the aura in the group. Right. So let's start with trigger. Trigger are the most important aspect of any aura. It's basically the condition that tells you when it should activate and what kind of data it should show, etc. And right now we want this one to show cooldown on a spell. And cooldowns are in the status type of trigger. So change the type to status, and status should be cooldown progress spell here. Right, so we're gonna just type in the name here, Chi Burst, like so, and we're gonna do a really simple version right now. So on show down here we're gonna put on always. Right, so this right now track Chi Burst, and then we're gonna go back to display. Here you want to click on cooldown here, so we get this sort of cooldown animation we want. And then on text here we're going to change it to %P, and if you read on the description here, P stands for progress, so the remaining time. So if we have %P here and then click OK, it's gonna track the time instead of stacks, and that's what we want. And just a few touch-ups here. Text position we want in center. It should be inside, and you can choose whatever font you want. And make the size a little bit bigger. Like so. Outline is fine. Scroll down a bit. I prefer remaining time precision to be set on no decimals, but you can have however many decimals you want. But I prefer to have none. Right, so when we're done with the display tab and it looks exactly how you want it, we're gonna go to the tab conditions over here. And we want to add a condition that when it's on cooldown, the icon should be gray to saturated. So we're gonna add a condition. If on cooldown is true, then desaturate, and just click that little tab there. Right, so we got only one more thing to do, and that is in the load tab. So this is a Chi Burst. Chi Burst is a talent for monks, so we really don't want this to be loaded on any other character than our monk. So we're gonna put it like this. Player class monk. So when we're logging in on our other characters, this won't have to pop up because we don't need it. We can also click on this talent selected Chi Burst. So if we don't have the talent Chi Burst, this won't pop up either, because if we don't have the talent, there's really no point in tracking it. Right, but let's try it out, see if it works. Right, so this shows a really simple cooldown. This is the simple version, but I'm gonna show you how to do a slightly more advanced version as well. So yeah, back to the Weakaura menu with the command /WA, and for now I'm just gonna go to load on this and click on never. So that Weakaura is here in my library of unloaded Weakauras because we don't really need it right now. Right, so if you go back to new, we're gonna do a new group again and call it SEF. So we're gonna do a cooldown aura for Storm, Earth and Fire. And Storm, Earth and Fire has both a cooldown and stacks. And we also want to track for how long the buff is active. So there are three aspects we want to track on this cooldown. And unlike the previous aura, we're gonna do one aura for when it's off cooldown and one for when it's on cooldown, and then a third for the active buff. Let's start. We click on new, and then icon, and call it Storm, Earth, Fire, or you know, whatever we want. Pop it in the group like you did before. Open it up. So trigger then. It's the same trigger as before. So status, cooldown process spell, and we're gonna type in the name here. Storm, comma, Earth, comma, and Fire. Yeah. So this aura I want to show both when it's on cooldown and when it's not on cooldown, as long as we have stacks available. So we're gonna do like this. We're gonna show should be on always, but click on stacks here, and you should have this sign here, which means equal to or bigger than one stack. So this will be pop up as long as we have stacks available for Storm, Earth and Fire. So if we go back to display then, we want this to be on percentage stacks because we want to see how many stacks we have of this. Just wanted to pop it in the center, maybe a different font, whichever you like, and a little bit bigger. Yeah, 35 or something. Right. We can also, if you like, go to animations and just pop in a little bit of effect, fade in, preset fade in and preset fade out. This means when it pops in, it sort of does a nice fade in, and then pops out, it does fade out. If you click on this eye here, you can see it in action. So it looks just, you know, it's a nice effect. I like to have it. Right, so let's see how it works. Yeah, so this shows how many stacks we have, and right now we have 2 stacks, but we're not done yet. So go back to Weakaura menu. Oh, and one more thing. In display tab, you want to click on cooldown here, so we get this, so we can sort of see the cooldown, even if we don't have max stacks, but we can still see stacks. Right, so we're gonna do a second aura now, and that's gonna be up when it is on cooldown. And we could go back to new and, you know, do the process all over again, or we can do it the lazy version and just right click on this one and then click on duplicate and rename this to cooldown. Right, so this is an exact copy of the one we've already done, but we're gonna go to trigger now and we're gonna change this. This should always be up if the stacks are exactly 0. So when we have no stacks available, this should be up. And we want this to be desaturated, maybe a burst cooldown, like so. And if we don't have any stacks, we're really not interested in seeing, you know, how many stacks we have. It's 0. We want to see the progress of the cooldown, which is P, so we can see the remaining cooldown. And we might want to, you know, slightly smaller size on this. No decimals, please. So let's see how it looks, and we get that off, and so we can see we have 1 stack right now, and we can see the cooldown of the spell as well, but we don't see the timer for it because, you know, we still have 1 stack up that we can use. Just gonna pop this off like so. So this is how it looks like when we have absolutely no stacks at all. But we also want to see when it's active for how long it will be active. So we're gonna go back to the Weakaura menu, and we're gonna do like this. We're gonna duplicate, and this is gonna call Storm, Earth and Fire active. And this is gonna track the buff we get when we have activated the spell. And a buff is called aura. Buffs and debuffs are auras. So we're gonna change the type to aura here. And we're gonna type in the name, or we can be a bit lazy, go back and copy it. And paste it in there. Right. So this is gonna show the duration of the buff. So when we have activated the cooldown. And we want it to give it a nice glow as well. Right. But when this aura is active, when the cooldown is on, we don't want these two to be active. We want them to be gone as long as the buff is active. So what we're gonna do here, I want you to hold control, select one, hold control and click on the other as well. And as you can see here, we have selected both. And we're gonna add a second trigger, so still in trigger tab, click on this plus over here and we get a trigger 2. And this is gonna be an aura as well. So we paste in the name Storm, Earth and Fire, but instead of active, we want this to be set on missing, which means it has these auras have 2 conditions. Trigger 1 is it should track the spell, Storm, Earth and Fire, but only as long as the buff, Storm, Earth and Fire, is missing, because we only want to see when it's missing. When it's active, this is the aura we want to see. So let's see how it looks like in practice. Alright, forgot one little thing. Back to Weakauras. The buff should of course have a progress, not stacks. We want to see, yeah, exactly, the duration. And we want it to be slightly smaller size on that. It's a little bit big. And no decimal, like so. So yeah, that is how I usually do my cooldown auras. So you can do this for all types of spells that have that activates a buff. It's also pretty nice to I usually want to be able to see the cooldown only when I don't have any stacks available, because if I have a stack, I really don't need to see the cooldown. Yeah, so that is a slightly more advanced version of a cooldown aura.
You will not bury me again.
Right, so now we've done a simple version and a more advanced version of cooldowns. And I just quickly want to show you how you can, you know, add a bit more flair or make it a little bit more fun to look at. So we're gonna do a third one. So go back to new, click on group, and name it whatever we want. Cooldown group, let's say. And we're gonna do the first version really quickly. So icon, flying serpent. Kick, let's say, pop it in the group. So just like the first version, we go to trigger, status, cooldown progress spell, and I'm just gonna type in spell here, find serpent kick, let's say, should be set to on always, and in conditions, just like before, on cooldown, if it's true, then it should be saturated like so. Right, and for this one we don't want any text, We just want it like it is. And I actually want to have 3 more of this. I'm just gonna duplicate, let's say, roll. Roll. Like so. And we're gonna track roll here instead of flying serpent kick. No, let's say Tiger's Lust instead. It's easier to show this when it doesn't have any stacks. Tiger's Lust. And if I click on the eye here, I can see both, and right now both of these are overlapping, so I'm just gonna change the X coordinates for this one. Right, so these are really simple right now. They track Tiger's Lust or Flying Serpent Kick, and they become grayed out when they're on cooldown. So we're gonna add a little cooldown animation. So if we go back to new again, we're gonna do a progress bar. And let's call it SK cooldown. And just click and drag it there. So this is gonna be a sort of like cooldown animation on top of our Flying Serpent Quick cooldown. So let's start with the most important thing, which is trigger. It's gonna have trigger on status, cooldown, progress, spell, and just like the icon, type in the name, Flying Serpent Kick. Right. But this time, this should be set show on cooldown. Just leave it at that. And in display tab, so we're gonna remove icon, because we don't need the icon. And then at the top here, orientation should be set from, let's say, top to bottom, I think. And it looks really messy right now. So rotate left, none. We are gonna go down here, and we want this to be the exact same size as the icon, and the icon is 64 pixels times 64. So in width we type in 64, and in height 64. So we have this square bar that fills up and down. And we have, as you can see, a top text that says the name and a bottom text that says the cooldown. We don't really need to see the name, it's enough with the cooldown text down here, so we're just gonna take away the top text. And you can of course customize the bottom text however you want it. Take any font you like and maybe increase the size a little bit, and font flags and outline maybe. Oh yeah, and before I forget, I'm just gonna have to remove the Storm, Earth and Fire cooldown we did before, because we don't need it right now. Never. Okay. So let's see how this looks. Right, so we have this bar that drops down when it's on cooldown. Exactly how we want it. And we're gonna repeat that for Tiger's Lust, so let's do this. Duplicate Tiger's Lust. Alright, TLCD. Pop it there, and let's just copy the name Tiger's Lust and pop it in here. We don't have to retype it every time. So this should have the same coordinates as the Tiger's Lust icon, which is, if we go back to it, -70. I put it on -70, like so. And maybe we want a different color on the bar. We can even change the texture it uses. If you have shared media, you could have, you know, you can import how many textures you want. I have quite a lot. Let's take a simple one, banter bar, oops, no icons. Bar color, maybe a yellow. We can set the, yeah, like that. We can set this one as a green one maybe. You can do this in loads of different ways, and I really recommend that you experiment and, you know, do it exactly the way you want it to look. So remaining time, I want to be on 0. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So just a few touch-ups. If you click on the whole group is selected. If you make any changes, the changes will happen to all of these within the group. You can also, you know, as I did before, holding control and click on all of them and select it like that. And when you have all selected, if you make any changes, they're gonna happen on all the Weakauras. But, you know, let's just click on the group. And within the animations tab, we can add a few effects if we want. Maybe a fade in and a fade out, or maybe a grow. Grow and shrink. How would that look like? Yeah, you know, you can play with this and have whatever you want. And don't forget to always type in which class you want it to be loaded for. Let's say I want this to only pop up when I'm on my monk and only when I am in the Windwalker spec. And I browsed this list because it has some really nice options. Let's say you want a Weakaura to only be when you're in a specific role, or when you have a Mythic Plus affix active, or if you're in a certain type of instance, and stuff like that. So yeah, just browse this list. And yeah, so that's a few different ways you can do cooldown auras. And yeah, experiment, try different things and do it exactly the way you want it to be. And I will see you for the next lesson.